So we'll start with the definition. So what are ADUs or accessory dwelling units? So it's not pretty simple. It actually counts for a lot. So they are an accessory primary residential use of the property. On the other hand, a JADU or a junior ADU is basically a smaller version of an ADU. They are no more than 500 square feet. They need to be contained within entirely within the single family residence, including an attached garage. And the main difference of a JADU from an ADU is that the JADU can have no separate bathroom. They can use a bathroom from the main residence as long as they have interior access to that bathroom. So in terms of the number of ADUs or JADUs that you can have on your property, if you have a single family residence, you can have one attached ADU or a JADU, which by its nature is attached to a single family residence. However, if you're proposing a detached ADU, you can still have another attached ADU in addition to the detached ADU. For multifamily residences, you can have one attached ADU converted from the existing structure, or up to 25% of the existing dwelling units in the multifamily residence, whichever is greater. For example, if you have a 12-unit apartment, you can have up to 3 attached ADUs within the existing structure. And aside from that, a multifamily residence can also have 2 additional detached ADUs that are basically detached from the existing structure. So I'm going to go through a few different scenarios as to when ADUs can be allowed and what development standards are required for these ADUs. So the first scenario is a simple new attached ADU. So as you see from the diagram, the proposed ADU is attached to the existing single family residence. In this case, the ADU needs to be at least 4 feet from the side and the rear property lines. So this example shows an existing garage that is being proposed to be converted into an ADU, as well as an addition to make the ADU larger. So as you see here, the existing garage can keep its existing setbacks, which in this case is 0 feet, but the addition needs to comply with current standards, which means it has to be at least 4 feet from the side and rear property lines, and that's at least 6 feet away from the main house. So this scenario shows a new detached ADU. Again, the proposed ADU needs to be at least 4 feet from the side and rear property lines. And in addition, the detached ADU needs to be at least 6 feet from the main residence. Also, as previously mentioned, an additional JADU or junior ADU can also still be allowed with a detached ADU. Okay, so for multifamily residential developments, as previously mentioned, up to 2 detached ADUs can be allowed. The 2 ADUs can be attached to each other as long as they are detached from the main house or the main structure. Again, the ADUs need to be at least 4 feet from the side and rear property lines. And the detached ADU needs to be at least 6 feet from the main residential structure. Also, as previously mentioned, an additional attached ADU can also be allowed as long as it's converted from within the existing structure of the existing multifamily residence. So here are a few useful detailed development standards to keep in mind. In general, the maximum size for an ADU is 1,200 square feet. The only exception is for when addition is proposed as part of the ADU application. So if the property owner needs to expand the current residence in order to accommodate the ADU can only be up to 50% of the habitable area of the existing single-family residence, or at least 800 square feet, whichever is less. So in terms of maximum height for the proposed ADUs, the most important numbers to remember is 25 feet for single-family residences and 16 feet for multifamily residences. In practice, though, we've had quite a few problems with the 16 feet maximum for multifamily residences. There is a new state law that will increase this a little bit to 18 feet starting next year. But for now, it is still at 16 feet for ADUs as part of multifamily residences. There's also another exception where if the single-family residence is located near a state scenic highway, then the maximum height is 18 feet. And if there are any community status district that require a lower maximum height, the lower figure will apply. So as previously mentioned, the general required setbacks required for ADUs are 4 feet from the side and rear property lines. The front yard setback is generally 20 feet, which is the county-wide front yard requirements, unless there are other specifications by a community standards district, a specific plan, or a setback district. However, again, these do not apply to existing structures. Any structures that were legally built, such as the garage, carport, or storage area, will be able to be converted into an ADU and keep their existing setbacks. A common example of this, as shown in the diagram, is our old garages that were built with 0 setbacks, from either the side or rear property lines. So these old garages can be converted into ADUs and keep their existing setbacks as originally approved. So the property owner will just have to show us building permit records or census records from the past that shows that these structures were legally built and will allow them to be converted into an ADU with their existing setbacks. So one of the primary reasons for an ADU may not be allowed on the property is if it's located within a very high fire hazard severity zone. So in this case, it's not allowed unless the property owner can show that it has 2 means of access to a highway. So if you look at here the screen, house number 1 is located in a cul-de-sac and doesn't have 2 separate access to a highway down in the south. So an ADU will not be permitted with house number 1. But if you look at house number 2, it can show that there has 2 separate means to the highway, whether it turns right or turns left. So an ADU will be allowed in the scenario of house number 2. House number 3 has direct access to the highway. So in this case, the ADU will also be allowed in house number 3. So this is one of the main things that we look at to find out whether or not your property is a very high fire hazard severity zone. For those who are tech savvy, you can look at our website. We do have an interactive GIS system, or if not, you can contact our office and we'll look at our GIS system to find out if you are within this very high fire hazard severity zone. So in terms of parking, in most cases, no parking is required for ADUs. Again, the only exception is if the property is located in a very high fire hazard severity zone. In this case, 1 parking space will be required unless there are certain scenarios where the parking requirement can be waived. So this includes whether the ADU has no bedroom or it meets certain height, certain size restrictions, or if the property is located within a half-mile radius of a public transit, or there's a car sharing service in the same block, among many others. And finally, one quick but very important note: if you're converting a garage or a carport into an ADU, you won't need to provide replacement parking. So a few quick additional notes on JADUs. Again, the main difference between a JADU and just a small attached ADU is that a JADU may not have its own bathroom, but can use a bathroom in the main house that it has interior access to. As such, the JADU is subject to a couple of additional restrictions, which include that the JADU must be owner, or either the JADU or the main residence must be owner occupied, or it's also not permitted if the property is owned by a corporation or an LLC. And to enforce these restrictions, a JADU covenant is required. And the main points of these will be, as mentioned, a prohibition on the sale of the JADU separate from the main house, restrictions on the size of the JADU, and that the JADU or the main residence must be owner occupied unless the property is owned by a government agency, a land trust, or a housing organization. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. These are our contact details. Again, this is for the 20-year development services section.